I want to tell you about my journey from the auditorium church to house church. Welcome to Orlando House Church, by the way. We are part of a network of house churches headquartered in Tulsa, Oklahoma in the United States. And the network is called Church Without Walls International. And you can find out more at cwowi.org. Now, let's get into my journey from the auditorium church to house church. My wife and I have been worship leaders in auditorium churches over the years, over the decades actually. And we are, I guess you would call us a bit unusual when it comes to worship because we don't follow a specific format. And over the years, leading worship in various churches, we found that the Lord would respond to our worship by intensifying His presence. We refer to that as His manifest presence. He focuses His presence because He actively seeks out people who worship Him in spirit and in truth, not according to a formula, format, what have you. When He focuses His presence that way, most of the time, it's very difficult for anyone to speak, to move. Very often it's difficult for people to do anything when His presence is so intense. We just want to soak in His presence, to wait on Him, see what He wants to do next. And it's even difficult for preachers to preach in that atmosphere. And instead of rejoicing, we found that often they became resentful. They wanted their time behind the pulpit to deliver their sermon. And we would be asked to leave the church. And this happened not once, but many times. And after the last time, I went to the Lord about it to get His thoughts on it. And I told Him that I only see one common denominator, and that is me. And I said, Lord, if there's something wrong with me, please show me, let me know. I will do whatever I need to do to make adjustments, to fix it, to whatever. I'm not seeing it, so I need you to show me what's wrong with me, what I'm doing wrong, what I'm not doing right, whatever the problem is. Lord, show me, and I'll deal with it. Immediately, the Lord responded. I heard Him very clearly in my spirit. He responded with an assignment. And He said, I want you to search the scriptures for any reference, direct or indirect, any inference, and any idea of a pastor. And I thought, what does that have to do with what I'm asking? I don't see a connection there. I don't understand. Help me. Did I hear correctly? Is this what you're telling me to do? And I thought, man, this is going to take an entire lifetime. And I was hoping to get an answer, before I shed this earth suit and go to heaven. I was hoping to get a quick answer because this just keeps happening. But He was silent. I got nothing after He gave me that assignment. And that's when I knew the Lord was resolute and that I guess I should get busy. So I started searching the scriptures. I consulted a thesaurus and looking for any mention of the word pastor, any reference, indirect or direct, any inference. And what I found totally shocked me. I would never have expected in a million years to find that it doesn't appear anywhere in the scriptures. Nowhere. And I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably thinking, well, I know at least one place, and that's Ephesians 5:11, where it outlines the fivefold offices. This is what we often refer to them as. They're not really offices. They are functions. They're not titles. They are functions. But the King James Version does mention the word pastor. And the reason it does that, it has to do with like the word pastoral, which means very tranquil, very calm, very relaxing environment. We sometimes refer to paintings as a very pastoral painting. It might be a seascape, or it might be a landscape, or a lake or ocean, what have you. But that's where that word comes from. The Greek word there is poimen, and it is more accurately translated in modern English as shepherds, and that is, it is plural. It is never again mentioned in the scriptures. It is never defined. Yet we have somehow come to build entire churches around this one individual, and we have defined the role of that individual in a cultural sense, not in a scriptural sense, because it's not in scripture. And I could go into a deep history lesson about how that change occurred. That's beyond the scope of this video. But for the first 300 to 400 years, the church met in homes. And the letters in the New Testament were written by people doing house church to people doing house church. And we're trying to take the scripture, those letters which constitute our Bible, our New Testament, and we're trying to take that which is intended for people doing house church and put it in an auditorium church context, and it doesn't fit. It's not working. And so what happens is, along comes Constantine, the Roman emperor, and he supposedly has some sort of experience, saw a vision, this and that, and he marched his army through a river, declared them baptized and therefore Christian. He empties the pagan temples and calls all the Christians, all the believers, to these pagan temples to meet there instead of in the homes. And he adopts the pagan format for their gatherings. And that's what we have in the American cultural church today. And we've exported it all over the world. So when we get together, we don't have, for example, the scriptural outline to allow others to contribute. One might have a psalm, one might have a revelation, one might have this or that, and we break bread together in a house church, and there's no way to form, house church is all about relationships, and there's no way to form relationships in the auditorium church. And I'm finding that ministry, especially body ministry, that's not dependent on one individual. That's what's happening in our house church family. And I'm excited about it. And that's what's happening in other house churches that we are in contact with. And I'm very, very excited about it. When we come together, it's not a microcosm of the auditorium church. There isn't, it doesn't focus around one individual. And I'm always excited about how everyone can contribute and we learn from each other. But most importantly, we deepen the relationships and we learn how to love each other. And something that the Lord spoke to me very recently that exploded in my spirit, he said 6 words to me. He said, love is the key to everything. And with that, I'll let you chew on that just like I'm still chewing on that.